The day she walked out, she didn't look back. Her bags were packed, her heart already elsewhere, her eyes colder than winter rain. She left behind silence, empty rooms, and a man who had built his life around her smile. I watched her leave, powerless, wondering how love could vanish so fast. But when she returned, 1 month later, something in her eyes had changed. Regret? Envy? Maybe both. She wanted to see who had taken her place. What she didn't know was this: sometimes, the person you abandon doesn't wait around to be broken twice. For 10 years, I believed love was built on patience. My wife, Emily, and I shared a small home at the edge of the city, surrounded by tall maples and quiet streets. We weren't rich, but we had enough. We had morning coffees, lazy Sundays, shared dreams whispered into the dark. I worked long hours at a local architecture firm, sketching homes that would never be mine. Emily stayed home, working freelance, painting flowers that never wilted. Her laughter filled our evenings. Her kindness was what drew me to her in the first place. But somewhere between the comfort and the routine, I began to sense something slipping. It started subtly: missed dinners, unread messages, that faraway stare when I talked about the future. She began dressing differently, spending more time on her phone, smiling at texts she wouldn't explain. I told myself it was stress, that every marriage has its quiet storms. I ignored the signs because I was afraid of the truth they carried. One Friday night, she said she was meeting friends. I stayed home, waiting, watching shadows stretch across the living room. Midnight passed, then 2, then 4. She didn't return until sunrise. Her excuse was hollow, her tone rehearsed. I didn't press. I thought love meant trust, even when it hurt to give. Over the next weeks, our conversations turned to silence. I would find her staring out the window, eyes distant, as though the horizon held a life I couldn't give her. Then came the day she said she needed space. No anger, no argument, just a calm, decisive break. She packed her things, kissed me on the cheek, and left. That night, the house echoed with ghosts. Every corner whispered memories. The couch where we dreamed of children, the kitchen where she danced barefoot. I tried to convince myself it was temporary, that love like ours doesn't end this way. But days turned to weeks, and the only thing that returned was silence. I lost myself in work, long drives, old books. I learned to cook for one, to sleep on my side of the bed without reaching for someone who wasn't there. Grief became my teacher, and in its lessons, I discovered something unexpected: peace. One evening, I joined a local charity project. That's where I met Claire, quiet, warm, with eyes that saw through sadness. She never asked about my past. She only smiled like sunrise after a long storm. Slowly, gently, she reminded me what joy felt like. She didn't fill Emily's place. She helped me rebuild the parts of myself I'd forgotten. By the time a month passed, the house no longer felt like a graveyard. It was a home again. And that's when Emily came back. It was a late Saturday afternoon when I saw her car in the driveway. The same car that had vanished a month ago, tires still carrying the dust of departure. She stepped out wearing the same coat she'd left in, but the confidence in her eyes was gone. She smiled, but it was the kind of smile that hides desperation. "I was in the neighborhood," she said. But her eyes betrayed her, scanning the porch, the curtains, searching for something. Or someone. Inside, I offered her tea out of habit. The silence between us was heavy, carrying questions neither of us wanted to voice. She looked around the living room, new flowers on the table, art on the walls, and a warmth that wasn't there before. Then she saw Claire's scarf draped on the chair. The color drained from her face. "You've moved on," she whispered, as if the words hurt more than her own betrayal. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. The walls around us spoke louder than I ever could. She began talking, fast, anxious. About mistakes, loneliness, how the man she left for wasn't what she thought. How the promises he made turned to manipulation and guilt. She said she missed the way I looked at her, the way I cared, the stability, the safety. But I had learned something in her absence. Love isn't a safe harbor when one person keeps setting fire to the docks. Every word she spoke was a confession she'd once sworn would never exist. I listened, not with anger, but with the calm of someone who'd finally seen the truth. She hadn't left because she was unloved. She'd left because she was ungrateful. Her tears fell, but my heart didn't stir. I had mourned her once. I couldn't mourn her again. As she stood in the doorway, trembling with regret, I realized something profound: forgiveness doesn't always mean return. She wanted redemption, not reconciliation. She looked around once more, eyes lingering on the small painting Claire had gifted me, a sunrise over still waters. "Who is she?" she finally asked. "Someone who showed me what love feels like when it doesn't hurt," I replied quietly. Her breath caught. "You replaced me so quickly?" I shook my head. "I didn't replace you, Emily. You left. I rebuilt." The words hung between us, sharp but true. For the first time, I saw her without the haze of memory or the veil of affection. She was human, flawed, frightened, and selfish. The woman I once loved was a stranger now. She stepped closer, reaching for my hand. But I didn't move. I had learned the cost of touching fire twice. For a long moment, we stood there, two people bound by history, divided by choices. Then she turned, whispered something I couldn't hear, and walked away. This time, I didn't watch her leave. I closed the door before she reached the gate. Outside, autumn leaves danced across the yard. Inside, silence returned, but it wasn't empty anymore. It was peaceful. In the weeks that followed, I thought about her often, not with longing, but with understanding. Sometimes love ends not in anger, but in awakening. Some goodbyes are not losses, they are releases. Claire and I continued building our quiet life together, one rooted in trust, laughter, and gentle honesty. I no longer feared solitude because I'd met its shadow and survived. Emily never returned again. Word spread that she'd moved away, chasing new beginnings in another city. I hope she found peace, just as I had. Betrayal had taught me the hardest truth of all: not everyone who walks beside you intends to stay until the end. But when they leave, you have two choices: to break or to rebuild. I chose the latter. Sometimes the people who walk away are lessons, not losses. And sometimes the ones who replace them don't stand in their shadow, they bring light where darkness once lived. So if you've been left behind, remember, being abandoned doesn't mean you're unworthy. It means the wrong person made space for the right one. And if one day they come back, asking what became of the love they threw away, let them see what healing looks like. Because nothing unsettles the betrayer more than seeing the betrayed finally free. Would you take back someone who broke your trust, or show them what true peace looks like without them?